All righty. Mike, welcome to the webinar. So excited to chat with you. We have talked about this multiple times. We talked about it a ton at AWS reInvent, and we're going to hear your story again today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Looking forward to sharing our story and success with RudderStack.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about Mike's journey from data chaos to building a data stack that is allowing them to do a lot of things. The latest of which is ML-driven campaigns out of their data warehouse, which is pretty awesome. So we'll go there, or we'll get there by the end of the webinar. But first, Mike, tell us about yourself, and then tell us about StatPearls as a business.
My name is Mike Sperduti. I'm a leader engineering at StatPearls. Over the last, several years, we've been gathering all this content, and we're a medical education, online healthcare, and technology company. So we've gathered 10,000 medical publications and 100,000 medical questions, covering basically all the topics in medicine and healthcare. So for doctors, nurses, pharmacists, they come to us for reference material, for preparing for their exams, and continuing education to maintain their license.
Very cool. And so you've collected a huge amount of information. How do you make money? Do you, charge people to view it? What's the business model?
Yeah. Gathering all this content, we've gotten contributions from doctors and medical professionals making publications. So now it's really packaging that up and helping them prepare for the exams. So they go to their site, and we have board exams, test prep, continuing education. So we sell a package where you can come on, practice your questions, get feedback on how you're doing. We compare your test scores to other scores, and we provide learning material to keep learning and prep for your exam.
Very cool. And what do you do at StatPearls? What was sort of your, or even maybe even before that, you've kind of worked in data for a long time, but so tell us about your career and then what you do at StatPearls.
Yeah, so my background is actually in embedded devices and deep learning and machine vision on small cameras that do medical test tubes with medical companies like Welch Allyn and spin-offs of that. Now I've taken a path into web development with StatPearls. And this is a project that's been ongoing for a while for me, but it's still data analysis and in the healthcare space. So it's really interesting. So the first several years we've built this content, and then the last couple of years we've really gone into the commercial aspect of it. So we've curated all this content, built our packages, built the product, and then it was time to all right, now it's time to go to market and actually provide the service for people, because we're at that point where we had enough content to do that. So it's really a story of building the company and then getting ready to commercially launch, and how do we sell it to people, and how do we get our product out there.
Makes total sense. Now tell us what's unique about StatPearls from a data standpoint, because as you started to go to market, you were telling me that you faced some difficulties in actually pulling the data that you needed to go to market. What was the specific nature of some of those problems?
Yeah, with our product, because we tried to, we thought big. We wanted not just one particular exam prep. We really wanted to cover everything and be like an all-in-one spot for all of the medical professionals. So we have doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, pharmacists, and even within that profession of a doctor, there's multiple different subspecialty exams that you're studying for. There's the initial certifications, there's recertifications, and there's subspecialty exams. I might be studying for obesity medicine, or I might be studying for neurosurgery, or I might be a nurse taking my initial certification, or I might be a nurse practitioner, that's a specialist in psychology. So, there's a very broad product offering that we have, and understanding doctors in all the different exams, nurses in all the exams, and each exam is like a product that has also multiple pricing, 3-month pricing, 6-month pricing. understanding each one of our users and customers from that perspective was a challenge, and trying to get our hands around all that.
Makes total sense. Yeah, that sounds like an extreme amount of fragmentation. What questions were you trying to answer? So you launched, commercially. What questions were you trying to answer? The business, I'm sure, is coming to you saying, I need to know X, Y, and Z. What were those questions?
Yeah, really, what is the value of our customers? What's their lifetime value of a doctor? What's lifetime value of a nurse on our site? What products are they buying? What's trending positive? What are our successes in our product offering? With over 500 different products, each one with different multiple pricing, keeping an eye on all that data and understanding, the sales cycle for each incoming and post sale. We're a subscription product, right? So they stay with us for 1 month. How many renewal cycles are there going to be? And what's our get back on advertising? So those types of questions across all those different products was kind of the challenge.
And you kind of described it a little bit as data chaos. And so tell us why that was. How are you getting that data when you launched commercially, right? You have to go get that data from somewhere, and I'm assuming it was stored somewhere, captured somehow.
Yeah. I mean, when you first, our first go to market is like we had everything in our own database with not really a professional marketing stack, right? So what products are selling? Well, we've got to mine that out of our own product SKU database and pull that information out and run reports manually, trying to get a pulse on what's going on. So it was a real startup. It was the startup fun of trying to sort through your data. You're more worried about just getting everything up and running at that point in development, and so what products are really selling on our site, and what who's going to what, and what are they looking at, and what's the renewal on some of the subscriptions. That wasn't really developed in our system yet. So we're mining that our own data out, and it's just it was just everything is a one-off, one answer for one question type of model.
Sounds like a lot of ad hoc SQL, creating and throwing away SQL queries, and then I'm sure there was some exports and VLOOKUPs as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's so that was the previous state. You're trying to answer questions for the business. That's really difficult, doing a bunch of ad hoc work. The first place that you started in terms of solving the problem was implementing an entirely new strategy for collecting first-party data. So can you tell us why you started there?
Yeah, it was really for the reasons, like, instead of mining our own data, our own database, and trying to store everything in that one context database, getting to a data warehouse where it funnels all of our different, our user information, from Stripe to email to customer support to our own database IDs, putting all this information into a data warehouse, into an actual real marketing stack was really was important to us to even try to answer these questions, because we realized we're not going to be able to just keep mining our own database, and it's kind of not the right way to do things. So really implementing RudderStack and RudderStack helping us organize, we were able to create a nice network map with inputs and outputs showing our Stripe data is coming in here, our SendGrid data is coming in here, and we're going back out of our data warehouse to our email clients and back into our database, in a network map of a visual that shows our marketing team, our inputs and outputs, where everything's flowing, and where all of our sources, all of our Google accounts, and how everything's structured on our site from a marketing perspective. So that was really the first thing that, okay, great. Now we're getting everything organized. We've got users coming to the site. We're funneling everything to our data warehouse, and it's making sense from a input output flow of getting everything organized.
Makes total sense. So you have all of this data flowing into your warehouse, and you're able to show your internal business stakeholders, hey, here's a map of all the data. And can you just tell us, what did that do for your relationship on sort of the data engineering side of things with those internal stakeholders? I mean, you mentioned marketing, I'm sure there's others, but how did giving them a visual map of the entire, call it a customer data stack, right? Giving them a map of the customer data stack, what did that do for them?
Yeah, it gives confidence in that we're working for a real solution, and it also shows the complexities of, Stripe data going into a data warehouse, attributes from our customer support system going into a data warehouse, and then being pulled out into other other tools. It just drives home the interconnectivity of everything and how we have to think about each one of those components in getting what data do we need where, and logically thinking through all that. So it helped create a plan between engineering and marketing to figure out, okay, this is our structure, this is our foundation, and if you have a strong foundation, now we're like, all right, we got a strong foundation. Now, how do we build off of this to really get to the data that we need? So without a foundation and you just got random inputs and outputs, and that's step one. You really have to build on something, right? And so that drove home the confidence of it, that we're all on the same page, inputs and outputs, and even user funnels and journeys.
Yeah, it makes total sense. One question on the user journey. So of course, you said you're pulling in the Stripe data via, RudderStack, the email engagement data, but you're also tracking all this user behavior on your site. Can you give listeners just an idea of some of the types of user events that you were tracking? I mean, what were some of the really critical user events from your website that you wanted to track and send in to combine with all of that other data to build that complete picture of the journey?
Yeah. It's not just, all these different sources funneling in. It's actions that your users are taking on your site too. The standard, going to cart and abandonment, right? And what do you do there? But just even from the different sources, like Google, are they coming direct from Google? Are they coming direct from other places? I mean, we've got indexed articles on PubMed. So what's the traffic flow from that perspective? We've got advertising running, right? So what's the flow of them? What's the funnel coming in from the ad campaign? So trying to think through each one of those different funnels, incoming, that is trying to get that all sorted in the events of you're viewing this product, you're clicking on this action item, you're going to a cart, you're going to your dashboard, you're taking some practice questions before you buy, as a trial, you're answering our emails. We'll send out daily information, daily question emails for free, that type of user tracking to understand how far are they getting into the user journey. Those all kind of have to be implemented too, to really track your users appropriately.
Yep. Makes total sense. Well, the next piece of the puzzle you described as solving identity resolution with this ultimate goal of creating a complete view of your customer, or a customer 360, as some people call it. And, it was funny. We've laughed about this a couple of times, but it's a huge feat just to get all of the data in your warehouse, that represents the entire customer journey. But then you actually have to do something with it. You have to actually combine it. A bunch of tables spread out in there certainly may make some of your analytics and queries a little bit easier, because you're not pulling from different data sources and doing a bunch of exports. But for you, identity resolution was sort of the first big step once you had all the data. Can you talk about why that was and why that was sort of priority number one once you got all the data in the warehouse?
Yeah, once I had everything, created this big, nice marketing map, and had all these inputs and outputs, and everything was flowing in the data warehouse, and it seemed to make sense. We pulled it into a couple BI tools. So we extracted our tables into BI tools, and at that point I thought I was ready to go. But then you put it in these BI tools, and you're realizing you still have to make the relationships between all of these different inbound data sources, and stitch that user journey together, the identity across all these different tools. It's a custom ID for this tool, it's an email ID for this tool, it's a database ID for my tool, it's an intercom support number for this tool, and stitching that all together, realizing it, looking at the BI tool with my marketing guys, were we realized how much more lift we even had ahead of us. And the debate was, well, do we do it in the BI tool? Because if we set up all the relationships in the BI tool, you're kind of married to that. So if you go to another BI tool, you have to redo it all. Or do you do it in the SQL, like in the actual data warehouse, and just create all these different views from stitching everything together? But then that's like a lot of work. It's a lot of engineering effort to actually to do all that, and then somebody's got to maintain it. So it became like we thought we were there, and then it was like a whole nother step of like, wow, we actually have a long way to go here to even stitch, understand what our users are doing. So it was kind of a disappointing moment in putting it just into a BI tool and realizing we had a lot going on still.
Yeah. Well, you actually were one of the very first customers to help us with our Redshift implementation of our profiles product in RudderStack. And the whole point of profiles is, to help people like you avoid having to A, build all that logic, and then B, that getting trapped in a BI tool. And you can do it right there in your warehouse. So you adopted RudderStack profiles. Tell us what that was like. What did you use it for?
Yeah, I mean, the very first thing we actually had with profiles was really a clear user journey, and all this relationships between these different tools and different identifiers. When first time we saw like, here's a full out user journey, every action and page and thing that the user did from all sources in one extracted table view was amazing. It was like, okay, this is now we're getting somewhere. It makes sense. It's being joined together from all these different sources, and it really gives you insight into like your users, and then you can say, give me all the users who are doing this, and then you can look at different paths. So that was like the first. Okay, we're stitching these users together. We got a full user journey from all these different sources, and that was like the eye-opening moment. When RudderStack got us there with that profiles tool, the identity stitching portion was like the first big eye-opener that we knew we were getting somewhere.
Very good. And how long did that take? I mean, just sort of orient me. If you were kind of looking at doing it manually yourself versus doing it in RudderStack, give me just like a rough time comparison of you doing that as a data professional in profiles versus writing SQL.
Yeah, that's hard to answer because I don't know if I'd be done yet. Because part of a startup is you focus on your product and you've got all these different areas. So to spend a lot of resource on mining data warehouse is difficult at that time. So as you're growing, it's hard to dedicate those resources. You're always trying to improve your product and improve, everything you got on your site for the user's sake. But mining data out for marketing is hard when you're starting up. So no, it was a big lift for engineering team, because I think we wouldn't have done it in a BI tool for that whole reason of being married to a BI tool. We've done it more in a SQL manner, but then it would have been just a lot more engineering resources. And again, I don't know if we'd really be close to where we are today, even like not even close.
Makes total sense. All right. So you combine, so now you have a complete picture of the customer journey. You use profiles to sort of automate a lot of that. You're configuring it. It's generating all the SQL for you. What was maybe like one of the key metrics you were looking for once you had the customer journey? What was the main question you wanted to answer first?
Yeah, the biggest answers we were looking for right off the bat was understanding the return on ad spend and lifetime value of a customer, and the subscription renewal rate, because those were the metrics that were really driving. If we spent this, what do we get back? So in a subscription business, Google Analytics might say, Google AdWords might say you get 0.8 return on your ad click, but it doesn't account for renewals, like future 3 months renewal rate.
You get a monthly payment over 6 months or a year if they buy that version of the product.
Yep. So they'll tell you get a 0.8 return on that first ad click, on that somebody clicks the ad and buys it, but it doesn't tell you like the long-term 3 months from now, that subscription that they signed up for renewed 3 times. So what is that renewal rate on your subscription? And there's also leads that, I mean, there's multiple attributions to different ad campaigns. And some of our users, if a doctor's studying for exam next year, they might not need us right now. So they click on an ad, they know about us, they sign up, kind of keep us in mind, but they don't buy anything for 6 months, and it doesn't really count towards the AdWord campaign.
Right.
So that type of information was like the first, what are we actually getting? Because we want to spend more on advertising, but we don't know the return. And for, again, a growing startup like that, you need to be confident with your numbers before you can really just start, turning the dial on that.
Totally. Well, that was, as we were talking about this, that was one of the first use cases that you implemented. Once you had LTV and renewal rate, and you could tie that to the customer journey, you got really, really tight on your attribution. So tell us, kind of what happened with your Google Ads strategy once you had that information.
Yeah, that was a huge point of accelerated growth for us, because we turned the whole AdWord spend into a math problem. We now know, this is our return rate. We know our subscription renewal rate, and we know how long it's going to take roughly to get the money back. So it's really just a, cash flow and money problem. And as long as we get the return rates on our ad campaigns, we know we'll get the money back. So turning into a math problem is great, because there's, very little risk in that. You're confident in the data. We've got a clear, from the profiles tool, we get a clear understanding of our users by profession, by product. So we cranked spend, and we were really able to, we were very successful on Google AdWords to increase our sales, confidently.
Can you give us just a high level overview of like just a rough number? How much did you increase spend?
Yeah, we increased spend about 4 times the amount we were spending on
Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And that 4 times amount is, it's very confident that it was directly into sales and helped us in the last year or so. It was hugely beneficial for us.
Amazing. Okay, so the next part of the story, and this is sort of the grand conclusion, that we started with this as a teaser, but you had a full picture of the customer journey using all of your customer data in your warehouse. You build very, very clear attribution and understand ROAS, and are able to scale spend 4x, which is crazy. But that's all rearward looking, right? You're looking at customer journeys that have happened, understanding lifetime value, understanding return on spend. And the next step was actually moving to looking at the future and being predictive. So why was that a big deal for the business?
Yeah, exactly right. We started off, okay, we just need to understand our ad spend, figure out how to bring our customers in. We roughly know our retention rate. And now it's, okay, so now what do we do marketing wise with this profiles tool? Because we can really, take our users into cohorts and then take action on it. So like the first predictive was churn prediction that RudderStack helped us with. Basically just adds to our profile tool. So we can cohort our users by any number of attributes that we want to add to our profiles for our user. And they helped us with an ML model of churn prediction it's a score that gets added to our profile. And then allows us to take action on it however we want. We can take that cohort of users from churn prediction that are likely to churn, and we can try advertising to them on a cross product sell or a discount to renew, or an upgrade or a different product line, or continuing education instead of exam prep. So that is the first predictive measure of just adds to our profile, and we can take action on it. And with the profiles tool, now that we have these attributes, we can just export that user list and just shove it into our other marketing tools, whether it's email campaigns or support pop-up banners of like, hey, did you know about this? So it allows us to take action on these users.
So you're adding those predictive traits directly to that table of users. through profiles, and then you just push that straight to your email marketing tool, customer success tool. So it's right there for those teams to use. They can say, churn score above X, and they have a segment.
Yep. And not even on the predictive side, but if we wanted to take a segment, like a segment of users from our customer support tool and extract that, our marketing team used to have to do this manually, like through an Excel spreadsheet, like export these users, double check that they didn't buy anything.
Oh yeah.
Push it into push this Excel into a email tool. And then, if they bought something, they got to be taken off the list. It was a manual process. We're turning that manual process into a automatic process, handoff between like engineering and, in marketing. It just, here's the different ways you want to, look at your users and market to them. And then they can build the tools to just push it into the tools that they need to do the marketing.
Incredible. And I know we're at time here, but really quickly, what were the business impacts of your predictive efforts, right? So you were trying to, stop people from churning. How did that work?
That alone, that was a 1.7 to 2 times retention rate on churn prediction by taking action there. So
wow.
that definitely helped it. And again, every increase in that retention rate further helps our ad campaigns and our math problem, tilts the math problem a little bit more in our favor, for AdWords. So, it all ties together. So yeah, it was amazing.
Mike, well, incredible journey. Thank you for sharing it with us. And we look forward to many more stories like it from you and StatPearls in the future.
Yeah. And we look forward to continuing to use this tool to accelerate us, because it's been, an amazing experience so far.